Hey guys,
Yeah,
I'm Ned Scott, founder of Steem, co-founder with Dan Larimer, and yeah, I just thought I'd pop in. I was having a Twitter exchange with Mr. Hodel, and he asked me why is Steem a blockchain, and I'm happy to answer that question and any others. Is that where we want to start, Steve?
yeah. So my main question is
Wait, I have a question though, because I've never been on Teamspeak before. Is this mostly a crypto-oriented crowd, or Bitcoin, or
yeah, this
like
is
where
this
where
is
do things
Bitcoin.
really fall on the
This
map here?
here we have mostly traders. We have exchange operators. I mean, people do trade altcoins here, but it's mostly Bitcoin. Just because of the liquidity side, it's just there's not enough liquidity there. But there's
Cool.
all walks of life. What we have in common here is everybody's in here with Bitcoin. Like that's the one thing that unites us all.
Okay, gotcha. Hey, just before I get started, how do I turn off the sound for user entered your channel notifications?
It should be in settings, options, and then where is it?
Now hit self, sound pack, sounds deactivated.
Okay, there you go.
Okay, cool. I think I got it. Okay, cool. I'm just reading the little messages here. Okay, so it's mostly Bitcoin's the common denominator. Some people are here for crypto. You guys are interested in what I have to say about Steem, I guess. So what do we want to start with?
Well, I just have a question. I mean, I understand a blockchain these days can mean many different things. I mean, you pretty much name anything a blockchain. Um, what I really look at when I think of blockchains, I'm thinking censorship resistance. I'm thinking there's no way to come offline. Um, Not everyone shares that same view. So I just wanted to know, like, what is your definition of a blockchain, and then how is Steem a blockchain?
Yeah, absolutely. So, in my view, a blockchain is a tool for limiting and really eliminating censorship, just as you mentioned, and that's censorship of all types of transactions. That's people being able to move coins from their account freely. And with Steem, it's actually a few more things. It's the ability to have transactions that create messages that can be broadcast. And these messages can actually be quite deep. They can be entire blog posts and that sort of thing. So Steem is the first blockchain to support social media and content networks in the same way that other blockchains like Bitcoin have supported transaction or censorship resistance for transactions and for money. But now Steem, of course, shares those properties and is a cryptocurrency itself.
So where is all the content being held? Like, can that content ever be taken down?
Yes, all the content is directly on the blockchain today.
Okay, now who's running this blockchain? How is this blockchain being ran? Like, can I come to your servers and turn off your computers and is the blockchain over?
No. It's being run by nodes around the world. They have the entire full node. The consensus algorithm is delegated proof of stake. There is an element of proof of work in there, so it's a bit of a hybrid, but it's primarily delegated proof of stake. So there's a core top 19 witnesses, and then there's a round robin slot for the proof of work, and then an infinite list of backup witnesses who are also on full node. I'm going to send you guys I'm going to drop a quick article in the Teams.
How big is your blockchain right now? Like, if I was to download one of your nodes, like if I was to run a node, how much memory do I need? Or can I run a node?
Hey, sorry about that. I was just grabbing the link. Yes, you can run a node. It's absolutely free to run a node. And it's pretty big. It's a few megs right now. It'll take I don't know 8 hours or so right now, but we're working on some scalability improvements that we haven't completely announced yet, but it's going to be important to continue to iterate there because this blockchain it will build up pretty fast. But if you think about that, 8 hours to get this entire blockchain is really fast. We've had some major innovations in terms of scaling. If you go download other blockchains that just support transactions, they'll probably be taking a lot longer.
Net. So if I have a node, like right now with my Bitcoin node, I could go and check every single transaction in the history of time. With this node, if I run it, what can I do with it? Could I see all the content that's ever been written with Steemit?
Yeah, you can see all the content that's ever gone through Steemit and through many of the other web apps that are built on top of the blockchain. So it's interesting. Go and check out, here's a link for you, steamtools.com. There's been more than 100 applications built on the Steem blockchain since July. So what it really represents is the first social network or content database that has no walled gardens at all. If we think about Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, these are institutions that are taking our time, energy, creativity, and attention and turning that into profit for their shareholders and maintaining these walled gardens around their data to make sure that they're generating the profits that they can siphon out. But Steem represents for the first time a new model where everyone has complete and open access to the data and has the ability to monetize their own attention.
Yeah, but I mean, I can monetize if I decided to, start blogging, I can make it so in order to read my blog, you have to pay 5 cents.
Absolutely. You can set up a paywall, you can run ads, you can make money all on your own. So the thing there is you actually have to go through the process of, hosting and setting up the blog and driving users to your blog and then figuring out how to monetize it. The difference with Steem is it's simple as creating a social media account.
Oh, okay, so you're basically making it easy to monetize your content.
Yes, it's definitely easier in this model. But it's also like a very, very low barrier to entry for crypto. People are signing up and the site, largely seems like any other social media site people have signed up for in the last 5 years. And suddenly they're in the world of crypto. They have a digital wallet right there at their fingertips. If you've been to steemit.com, and if you haven't, please check it out. But if you log in and create an account, you have a wallet right as you sign in. It's a wallet built on a blockchain, cryptographically secured. Tokens are right at your fingertips. So
I mean,
people who never would have dreamed of getting into something like cryptocurrency before are suddenly stumbling into it and learning about it, which is pretty cool.
Well, see, I have a very different definition on cryptocurrencies, and I am not a huge altcoin fan, so I actually prefer people stay away from altcoins because I personally think they're all scams. But people.
So it absolutely cannot be, in this case. You're talking about people showing up to a website and blogging and creating content just as they were already doing on other platforms.
Yeah, I don't have a problem
money.
with that. I have a problem with the actual token, selling the token. That's where my problem comes in. Like, you're given a platform, I'm all for it. I mean, but you could use Bitcoin. Why not just use Bitcoin?
Bitcoin has completely different economics and technology. When we set out to build this, we understood that micropayments were a real problem. Tipping is a real problem. People don't tip because the tragedy of the commons, someone else will tip. Or why would I pay for something that I don't need to pay for? So what Steem really is a DAO. And it has a rewards pool every day, much in the same way that Bitcoin has a rewards pool for miners. There's a rewards pool here that must be distributed to the bloggers and to the voters of content. And that's what makes it powerful, is there's tokens that always must be distributed. It's really a point system. It's like the community is showing up to play a game, and there's points available to people every single day for the best performance. And that's what gives its attractiveness. Now, on a technological level, it was very important to have real-time transaction speeds. So Steem is a blockchain supported by 3-second blocks. That means 1.5 seconds per transaction on average. And that's very important because that means when people are interacting with web apps built on Steem, that they can see their transactions go through in real time. If you built this on a blockchain that has 10-minute block times and hour-long time to have a full confirmation, then that's an issue, because you don't know if your post is going to make it into the blockchain. You don't know if your transaction or vote really went through. And also, that's a blockchain that would not support the text and create a censorship-resistant database, which is another big aspect of the system.
I have a question. Have you ever tried Streamium? Have you ever used that payment channel on Bitcoin?
I haven't used Bitcoin Streamium. It's funny, we actually have a Streamium for Steam as well, spelled with 2 E's. I think there's some people in the chat box here talking about the economics of Steam.
Yeah, that's where I was going to go next.
I want to announce that there were some big changes recently. The community basically rallied to say that they weren't a fan of some of the experimental aspects of it, one of those being the hyperinflation on Steam, so that all people, would rather be Steam power holders. Essentially, we created a system where people would rather be long-term holders, and a system that reduced the ratio of noise to signal. But it had some effects that we weren't anticipating. And the community.
So you don't lock up the funds anymore?
Well, there's never it was the blockchain, but now the blockchain doesn't have that 2-year period, and it doesn't have the hyperinflation. So I'll send a link in right here. It's basically there's still the same mechanisms. There's still Steam and the staking version of Steam, which is Steam Power, but it's a 3-month stake. So over the course of 3 months, you could unstake completely, and there's no hyperinflation. So Steam now makes a great currency. It's got 9.5% annual inflation this year, and it reduces by 0.5% every year, pretty much for the next 20 years, until it gets to 0.95% inflation per annum. And that's a very low level of inflation that will at least continue to support the content creation of the network. But let me drop a link in here with the specifics.
Yeah. Anyone else got any questions?
Bitcoin guy says, how is 9% inflation level? Bitcoin had, 8% inflation until July of this year. So it's very sustainable. And Bitcoin, at the beginning of Bitcoin's life, it had more than 100% inflation. Just look at what's happening to Zcash right now. It's pretty much the same inflation schedule that Bitcoin.
So I have actually a remark about that. Bitcoin, we know exactly what we're going to get, and as you could see, it's really hard to change any type of controversial change. Like, we can't get even SegWit in, and there's really no downfalls at all for that. So that tells me Bitcoin's decentralized. When I see altcoins starting making these kind of changes, and you say it's the community, which is fine. I mean, it could be a community, but if you could get the majority vote, that kind of defeats the purpose of why I got into Bitcoin. You hear what I'm saying?
Right. Okay, but how about this? When Bitfinex got hacked, there was a chat room full of miners talking about forking the network. So, if we want to talk about mining pool centralization,
that's a very extraordinary claim.
Do
you have any proof on that?
Is it?
Well, because I hang out with I hang out with Alex Petrov, and I in the channels that I'm in, I know that was never been talked about. Maybe I don't even think Phil was even talking about that, and Phil was here. No one was talking about rolling back the Bitcoin blockchain. Even if they wanted to, it'd be impossible for that to happen.
Hey, I'm just repeating what I heard. So, regardless, I think it comes back to what's the purpose of these systems, and I think the definition of blockchain seems to be different for everybody. And I think where we're coming from, it's really a tool to support the community and the community's interest. And there's a governance model built into this, so it embraces the idea of people, updating the technology to better serve the community. Where I think it's, with Bitcoin's blockchain, it's more about, pushing the governance process away and saying, let's have a system, that completely, ignores that aspect of things. But that's hard. It's hard on the people who want to upgrade the network so that it has utility for other types of people than just speculators. But it's okay. It's okay. It serves its purpose. There's nothing wrong with it. I think we have a slightly different system here with Steam, for sure.
Yeah, this is what I was saying before. Everyone has a different definition of a blockchain. A blockchain could be anything. I mean, it's a nice buzzword to wrap around and boost your business. With Bitcoin.
Well, no, because there's certainly an aspect here of reducing the fault tolerance and solving the Byzantine general's problem. That is solved here. So as long as people's transactions aren't being censored and that sort of thing, you have a very, very robust system, and that should be appreciated.
Ned, when you guys were first designing the economics of Steem, did you ever consider an eventual hard cap?
A hard cap on the inflation? Yes, we thought about it, and with these recent economic changes, it came up a lot. And you can see that there's this narrowing of inflation over 20 years. So people really do appreciate the fact that a currency needs to have a very predictable supply, and there's certainly a lot of attraction to the idea that eventually there'd be no inflation or a deflating currency. But it's a huge challenge to the viability of the network. I mean, I'm a big Bitcoin guy, and when I think about the viability of Bitcoin after it pretty much stops printing Bitcoin, around 21 million, I don't know how the miners are going to get paid. So it's a bit of an issue, and what that means is either probably transaction fees have to go through the roof. And with Steem, we couldn't really get behind that idea that there wouldn't be any inflation to pay for the security of the network. We want the witness nodes to continue to be paid, to continue to support the network, and we also want the bloggers to continue to be paid. And we feel if the network, if the project's successful and the whole thing is very valuable, then even at 1% inflation per year, the incentives are still there rewarding the behaviors that the network wants to see to continue to grow and to continue to be secure.
Can you talk about Graphene and how it came into play for Steem?
Yeah, Graphene was developed by my co-founder Dan in his last project, BitShares, and so I was in Bitcoin in 2013 and discovered Dan that same year. Dan was doing some pretty innovative things, trying to build a decentralized exchange, basically the NASDAQ business model on a blockchain, and that was interesting. Ethereum came out, I got into that too. Now Dan's always been obsessed with scalability, and he doesn't want to go into any project if he doesn't feel that it's ultimately going to scale far and wide. If it's eventually going to hit a big bottleneck, I mean that's a massive problem. So he came up with Graphene, which is really just a new type of database that's single-threaded and very well suited to the nature of blockchains, which are inherently single-threaded. So Graphene's interesting. Actually, we started with Graphene on Steem, and then we completely refactored basically the database portion of Steem, and we came up with a new, basically a new database for blockchains called Chainbase. And it's funny, this is such a massive issue that we've actually gone back and we have some plans for even a completely new model. So yeah, these are scaling problems, a problem that I think everyone developing blockchains is thinking about a lot.
Now, when I analyze the economics of Steem and I look at how Steem interacts with the greater cryptocurrency ecology, as a functional analysis without any judgment on morality, would you say that Steem dollars derive their economic value from the losses of speculators?
I would not say that. I would say that Steem dollars are a way of moving the stability from Steem and offering Steem and Steem Power more leverage. So it essentially just changes the nature of the tool. Steem was never designed to be a currency, however. Steem Power was meant to be the vehicle where people could get the leverage, and Steem was just the door. You could open it, you could close it, you could walk through it, but ultimately it wasn't there to be something that was used. And that's something that you can see from that post that I just dropped in here called Final Review of Steem Economic Changes, that the community wanted to completely move away from that model. It was very experimental. So the one thing I would say about this project is in the beginning it was so experimental and so complex, and we just released the software. There was no ICO or anything like that, so we were a bit mavericks at the time. But now there's this huge community that has gotten behind this, and it's important that the community sort of drives this thing in a direction that is in their best interest. So I think that the theme going forward is simplicity. And you can see that in the economic changes that the community wants to see things get more and more simple. Steem is now currency. The Steem dollar is less and less of an important feature of the economy.
So how does one mine Steem currently in terms of application?
You know, I'm not much of a miner, but you can go to Google and type in Steem mining. There's been some challenges there. Originally, the original mining algorithm that was in there was meant to be CPU only, and it worked for a while, and then someone found a way around it. And you know, now it's I don't know, it needs work right now, to be honest. But ultimately, I think people want to settle on a GPU algorithm. Something like Zcash has been using, like Equihash.
Wait, so the security part hasn't been even like settled yet? You don't even know the security model?
The security model is delegated proof of stake, and the proof of work is an additional layer of security, but really it's an entry point for people to participate in the model. Are you familiar with delegated proof of stake?
I mean, I know what proof of stake is, what Ethereum's trying to do. That's as far as I know what proof of stake is. I know that not like besides.
So read the post. Dan wrote up something. I dropped it above. It's called the real proof of consensus, and it's basically an argument for the validity of delegated proof of stake. So Steem's consensus model is almost primarily delegated proof of stake, and it has a smaller element of mining that people can use to participate in the network and offer some additional security.
So it's really right now it's proof of stake. There's really no one's really doing any work on it yet, right?
No,
until that gets figured
there's
out.
mining going on. It's just happening through SHA-256 right now, and the community is begging for that to change because most people can't compete in that realm.
What are some competing algorithms you're considering if you change it?
The community is asking for Equihash, a properly implemented version of it. I think, you know, as we've all seen with these mining algorithms, is, you know, they tend to get broken. I mean, it's happened with Bitcoin. Bitcoin, you know, CPU to GPU to SHA-256 and all this. So it's a challenge to get it right, but yeah, ultimately, I think people want to see something that they can actually participate in rather than competing with the big boys.
Have you had any riders sent to you by the SEC, CFTC, or similar regulatory agencies?
We have an excellent team of lawyers, and we analyze the legal issues very, very closely, and we have opinions on all these matters and are in touch with the appropriate regulatory authority.
Was there a pre-mine?
No, there was actually no pre-mine. The software was announced on Bitcoin Talk and mined into existence.
Interesting.
Are you planning on joining the whale pool community?
You know, I've really enjoyed my time here, so you know, I think I'll keep it on in the background and see what else you guys like to talk about. And I've got an account here now, so yeah, maybe I'll come back. So sounds good, guys. Thanks for having me on. If you have any last thoughts, just drop them in the chat here, and I'll try to